Millions of children are at increased risk of harm as their lives move increasingly online during lockdown in the COVID-19 pandemic. In South Africa, the current lockdown may put children's privacy in danger as they spend more time online. They may be more likely to encounter online risks, including being exposed to child sexual abuse material or child sexual abuse and exploitation. Now let's discuss this further. We're joined via Zoom by Kelly Payne, spokesperson for ESET. A very good morning to you, Kelly. Thank you so much for making the time. What is cyberbullying and how does it manifest, especially during this time?
Hi, good morning. Thanks for having me. Cyberbullying is essentially a normal form of bullying, but it happens in the online space. And the reason it's so much more dangerous is because, as we know, in the online space, content is shared far more aggressively. Content can go viral, and if this content is abuse towards another person, this can be far more harmful.
Can you briefly discuss or talk to us about the different types of cyberbullying and which ones are most common today?
Sure. I think that the main, sort of cyberbullying that we see for affecting kids especially is in our social media channels, in gaming platforms, in online chat groups. And a lot of this is, body shaming, or it's hurtful messages that are being shared. It could be in any of those sort of platforms.
Yeah. What options do parents have in terms of protecting their children online and tracking their activity if they're concerned?
Sure. I think the main thing for a parent would really be to create an open space for engagement, to be able to chat to your children. If it's not a parent that they can go to, create a safe person that they can speak to about cyberbullying. I think a big thing that really needs to happen is education. At ESET, we have a lot of resources. We have a We Live security blog, a Safer Kids Online resource package. We have put a lot of information out there for parents to use, and I think this is really good information they should go and take a look at. Other things that parents can do, of course, is really go and check your children's privacy settings on channels like Facebook or Twitter, wherever it may be that they're online. Go and see what those parental control settings are. Have you made sure that your kids' passwords are strong enough? Do you have password vaults in place? Have you put in programs to protect your children's information? Those would all be things that I would suggest doing. And for a parent as well, to really just monitor your kids and see, are they looking depressed? Are they looking sad? Are they spending less time on social media? Those are all triggers that you might be able to pick up to know your kids are possibly in harm.
So now, as a parent of a teenager and a preteen, I have experienced personally where they just one step ahead of you in terms of how to hide things away from you. And most parents, it's not the easiest thing to do. How do we get around this one?
I think something that's important to do is, I think a big thing is screen time. It's not always a fun thing to have to do. I think parents, especially with more millennial parents coming through, we don't want to, demand, put rules in place for our kids at all times. But I think something important to do is just be aware of the fact that I think there's a stat out there that actually says between the hours of 7 p.m. to 8 a.m. in the morning, those are the times where your kids are most likely to be cyberbullied or to be harassed online. So if you are, as a parent, you know that your kids probably, due to COVID, they have spent far more time online. They're probably doing homework online. Even with kids going back to school, they're still working on their laptops, they're still working on their tablets, and that's okay. We need technology to help us as well. However, just make sure that you're really having those conversations with your kids, that you may be putting screen time in place to make sure that they're not online during certain times that could be a higher risk time for them to be online, and ensure that if it's not you that they're speaking to, is there somebody else? Maybe it's a teacher, maybe it's an aunt or uncle that they're far more friendlier with, or that they can have those sort of open conversations with. Rather allow them to have those conversations with those people so that they feel that if something does happen to them, they have a place to go to.
I imagine that events of the past year have changed the conversation around screen time, where parents usually controlled it. But now that children are potentially also schooling from home, screen time now means something different. What different aspects have had to be incorporated into the conversation about screen time?
I think a lot of it is really around education. Parents before were probably able to, most kids have a phone these days. They know their kids are at school with their phones, hopping onto social media on and off. But you knew when your kids came home, they were probably sitting at a table doing homework at a desk, and classes, they were at a desk. Now your kids are online 24/7. And as a parent, that must be incredibly difficult. But if you've taken the time to educate your children, to actually show them examples of cyberbullying and to check them and say, think before you ink, essentially before they make a post, think about what are they saying and what sort of reactions could they get from what they're saying, and what sort of comments are they putting out there on other people's posts. I think it's very easy. We live in this world now where people don't say things in person. But in the online space, they're very quick to comment, to like, to share posts. So it's really about creating that awareness and that education for your children, and to be able to say, adults get bullied too. That's something adults have to watch too, and watch their behavior and see how they are infiltrating that into their children's lives. So I think the best thing one can really do is educate themselves. Of course, there are processes you can put in place. There are there's all the settings in the world that I think all the social media channels are now putting in place. They all have cyberbullying policies to help parents as well. So I would definitely say go and have a look on each social media platform to see what they say about cyberbullying and the measures that they've put in place. But really just watch your kids. If you can see that they seem aggressive, that they seem moody, that they seem a bit depressed, maybe they don't want to talk about it, and that's okay. But it's to be able to monitor that and educate them, to be able to tell them how to go through a situation if they do face it. And for example, if they are facing a cyberbullying situation, what can they do about it? In this instance, I would say, if you're being cyberbullied, take screenshots of that content. Make sure you have records of everything and tell your truth. Don't be afraid to go out there and publicly say what has happened to you, and to share that, and to continue to create awareness for other people.
Yeah, thank you so much for all those very valuable inputs. But of course, it's a very important conversation at this time in our lives.
Absolutely.
Kelly Payne is with ESET, and we're having a conversation there about cyberbullying.